Okay, we're in episode 16, page 47. So we're still at the banquet. So you could say on your characteristics and conventions chart that episode 15 to 16 begins in media res, right in the middle of the scene, because we're still inside the mead hall celebrating Beowulf's victory. Okay, so page 47. And more, the Lord of Herod ordered treasure gifts for each of the Geats who sailed with Beowulf and still sat beside him, ancient armor and swords. And for the one murdered by Grendel, gold was carefully paid. The monster would have murdered again and again had not God and the hero's courage turned fate aside. Then and now men must lie in their Maker's holy hands, moved only as he wills. Our hearts must seek out that will. The world and its long days full of labor brings good and evil. All who remain here meet both. So Hrothgar orders treasure gifts for all of the warriors as well as for the one that's murdered by Grendel. This is good practice. This is a true leader. Beowulf should take notes. So if he wants to be an effective leader, he can just do everything that Hrothgar has done for him and for his fellow Geats. The narrator, the poet, then talks more about how everyone who remains on Earth is going to meet both good and evil. On your theme tracker, this is what you should identify. We will always have evil where we have good, and vice versa. Hrothgar's hall resounded with a harp's high call, with songs and laughter and the telling of tales, stories sung by the court poet, as the joyful Danes drank and listened, seated along their mead benches. So, the poet is actually telling about stories that the poet at the reception is telling. So then, what we're now going to learn about is the story of Finn and Hengist. Okay? If you go to our Edline page, Edline, Freudian slip. If you go to our class webpage, again, under Unit 2, and you click on this, Finn and Hengist, it's thinking. What you'll actually come to is a overview of the story of Finn and Hengist, because part of what I read in episode 16 and then the story continues in episode 17 at times becomes confusing. So if you do get confused, go to this on our class webpage and read this story. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of background. I also have a graph to show you, but again, if it gets confusing, go back to our Unit 2, our page, and click on Finn and Hengist right here. Okay, so let's go back to our notes. So here begins the story of Finn and Hengist. He told them of Finn's people, attacking Naf with no warning, half wiping out that Danish tribe and killing its king. Finn's wife, Naf's sister, learned what good faith was worth to her husband. His honeyed words and treachery cost her 2 beloved lives, her son and her brother, both falling on spears, guided by fate's hands. How she wept. And when morning came, she had reason to mourn, to weep for her dead, her slaughtered son and the bloody corpse of his uncle, both the men she most loved dearly, and whose love she could trust to protect her. But Finn's troops, too, had fallen to Danish spears. Too few were left to drive the Danes to their death, to force Naf's follower, Hengist, to flee the hall where they'd fought and he'd stayed. Finn offered them, instead of more war, words of peace. There would be no victory. They'd divide the hall and the throne, half to the Danes, half to Finn's followers. When gifts were given, Finn would give Hengist and his soldier half. Share shining rings, silver and gold with the Danes, both sides equal. All of them richer, all of their purses heavy, every man's heart warm with the comfort of gold. So, there's Finn, who's a Frisian. He kills Naf and his warriors. Finn then offers a truce to Hengist, but under stipulations. We have to share this mead hall. The Danes get all half of the treasure, but they are not allowed to actually return back to Denmark. They actually have to stay in this hall or this area, and the Danes and the Frisians, who are Finn's people, have to share space and rule together. The woman in the story, her name is Hildebert, and she is Naf's sister, and she's also Finn's wife. In this battle, she loses her brother, who is Naf, and she actually loses her son as well. His name is probably one of the coolest names in the entire poem, Beowulf, in battle. So her brother and her son are killed in battle. Okay? She is Danish. her family is Danish. She is from Denmark. But she ends up marrying someone who is Frisian. So, her brother's Danish, her son is Frisian. She is completely divided. Her loyalties are completely divided. Again, this is confusing. Go to our class website, click on this, overview the whole story, or click on this link, which is a PDF file. Unfortunately, it's flipped. And it actually is a flow chart, we'll call it a flow chart, of the story of Finn and Hengist. And I'll hold it up for you. Here it is. Okay? So Finn kills Naf. King Naf has a sister named Hildebert. Finn is married to Hildebert. But Finn and Hildebert have a son named Beowulf. Okay? That's where we are at this point. Let's finish up reading. Sorry. I lost my spot. Okay. 1095. Both sides accepted peace and agreed to keep it. Finn swore it with solemn oaths. What wise men had written was his word as well as theirs. He and the brave Hengist would live like brothers. Neither leader nor led would break the truce, would not talk of evil things, remind the Danes that the men they served killed Naf, their lord. They had no king and no choice. And he swore that his sword would silence wagging tongues if Frisian warriors stirred up hatred, brought back the past. A funeral pyre was prepared, and gold was brought. Naf's dead body was dressed for burning, and the others with him. Bloody mail shirts could be seen, and golden helmets, some carved with boar heads, all battle-hard and as useless now as the corpses that still wore them, soldier after soldier. Then Naf's sister, Finn's sad wife, gave her son's body to be burned in the fire. The flames charring his uncle would consume both kinsmen at once. Then she wept again, and weeping sang the dead's last praise. The Danish king was lifted into place, smoke went curling up, logs roared, opened wounds split and burst, skulls melted, blood came bubbling down, and the greedy fire demons drank flesh and bones from the dead of both sides until nothing was left. So we have a really, actually gruesome description of the funeral pyre. And the purpose of that is the poet is saying this battle has not only caused this poor woman to lose both her son and her brother, but it's the culture itself and the disgusting behavior of the man has now really not only affected two tribes but also a family.